Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. I am your host, Tiffany, and we have our Frank with us.
How are you?
We haven't had Frank on for a minute,
A
and
little bit.
yep,
A little bit.
yep, and it's time now. It is time because everybody always loves your podcast episodes.
I love you guys too.
And we always have so much fun, you and I love just like these conversations that we have with you on these podcasts. These are conversations that Frank and I are having every day at the shop, on the phone, just really working through some of our own things, or whether we have clients that are working through some things, and just kind of sharing like where the collective energy is. And I think this is something that's been coming up for a lot of people lately, something that has been a real it's like a real need right now to discuss of how to move forward when there is opposition as you grow, as you're hitting this like true growth spurt, and not that you're not on the growth edge anymore, that you've actually really taken it to the next level. And what kind of happens when you hit that level?
Yeah, can feel like a little messy, or like the phoenix, right? If there's no ash, there's no phoenix, or the lotus, right? If there's no muddy waters, what is that lotus coming out of? So sometimes our environment, as much as it may be triggering or irritating or frustrating to you, lean into it and embrace it, because something in your environment is giving you that place where you can grow out of it. Or from it. Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just a quick background. Frank is one of our incredible healers, readers at Spirit and Soul, but he also does a lot of life coaching. So if you haven't gotten a session with Frank, well, make sure that you're signing up. But Frank is, I'm so grateful to call Frank one of my own coaches. I mean, this is something, yeah, of course. Like he was just coaching me this morning. I mean,
we were talking each other off the ledge.
Yeah. As we do and as we need sometimes. So let's get started with really like what exactly are we talking about here? So I want to first just say that as you ascend and as you grow, as you hit new levels in your life, that what will happen inevitably is that you're going to be faced with challenges that it's almost like, I don't want to say your former life, but as you ascend,
Previous?
you have to shed. Yeah, and you have to shed.
Previous.
And those that are not on their way up to ascension with you, whether they realize it or not, they are, a lot of times we have people that tend to try to hold us back in some way, whether it's just like little comments that are said.
Your own family,
your best friends, your significant other maybe, and they just like don't understand like what you're doing. And what I think that they're reacting to, and I'm going to call it a reaction.
Yes, it's very reactionary.
Yeah, is what they're reacting to is truly an energetic that feels off to them. So as you begin to ascend, your energy is going to get a lot lighter. You're going to be vibrating at a different frequency. And what happens is law of attraction starts to kind of kick in and say, whoa, wait a second. We were brought together by one frequency level, and now this frequency is off. Yeah. Yeah. And you're doing your work, or maybe not even just your work, but maybe you obviously had to do some work to manifest something, right? To get to a different level, to manifest something different in your life, whether it's a change of jobs, or maybe you went out on your own, or maybe you're on a weight loss journey, or like a weight release journey, as you like to say, weight dropping
journey. So you never pick it up again.
Yeah, a fitness journey or something. And a lot of times when you do that, the people that are not on that journey with you, they don't understand, and they try to kind of keep you stuck and keep you where you are, whether they actually realize it or not. Right? So whenever we hit a level, or whenever we start to go on a journey, we're going to have opposing energies that are going to try to jump in the way, try to get you to stay in that stuck position. And I think that what happens, especially when you're on your spiritual journey too, You're going to start to see that people like don't understand what is this tarot? What is this? You know, what do you mean you're meditating? Right? Like
Yeah.
these little things. And it's like,
Or they ask why.
why? Yeah,
Yeah, like,
why?
why do you do
Right?
that?
Yeah. And
Why are
they
you
just,
doing
they
that?
don't understand it. And that's okay, right? We have to allow people their own journeys as well. Like if they don't understand it yet. And what I always tell people is that in those types of situations, you really truly have to just shine your light really brightly and know your audience, right? Don't
Right.
talk to them about it. But now you've reached a new place, right? And you've had some kind of growth or some type of manifestation and
Evolution.
evolution. And now you're starting to see some opposing forces. So let's talk a little bit about that because that is truly
That's
where
the teacher.
that's the teacher.
Wherever your triggers are, guys, understand that in that trigger, if we don't get so reactionary to it and we're more observant to it, it's a teacher. What is it showing you? What is it telling you? What is it revealing to you? You know, good, bad, or indifferent. Really, at the end of the day, if you're learning from it, you're growing. So we can thank it in all honesty.
Absolutely. But we also have to know how to move forward in it. And I think that's where people get tripped up. So let's give an example. I think a good example and what's kind of coming to mind is like let's say you really wanted a promotion at work. And now you're putting in the effort, putting in the time, growing into the role and you got the role, right? So now you got the promotion, you manifested it. Congratulations. And now maybe some of the people that were either
The coffee pot in the office room is getting uncomfortable.
it's getting that water cooler is becoming a source of gossip.
It's not feeling so friendly.
And now you're in a different role and now the expectations of you are different, but you have people that were on the journey with you and don't want to look at you as in a different role. Right, so let's use that as an example. How do you, that's actually something that came up for someone, for me recently, one of my clients. How do you then go forward in grace, right? How do you go forward and say, okay, I understand that this is happening. How do I want to respond rather than react from the ego, which is really where you want to go? I mean, let's be real. Like
When your
like
ego is screaming, you better
ego's like,
start
how
sitting.
dare you?
You want to start to sit. When it's screaming, you better sit down.
Yep. And you really will benefit more from responding from the soul rather than reacting from the ego. But the reacting from the ego, let's be real, it
It's
feels
human.
good. And it feels good.
And it's scratching
until it
an
doesn't.
And it's scratching an itch.
Yep.
That's what it is.
It feels good until it doesn't. Until all of a sudden you're like, ooh, you know what? Because think about it. When we react from the ego, it might feel good in the moment, but then you kind of sit back later and you're like, damn, that wasn't really like me, or you
It's
know,
like Taco
did
Bell.
it?
You're getting heartburn after.
It's like Taco Bell. It was great in the moment,
Right.
but you're
and now you're not feeling so great. That's ego.
I love it. Oh my God. So how do you then respond from the soul? And I'm not going to lie to you.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
Lean into your humor. Guys, if you can find the humor or a humorous lesson in it, if you can laugh at it a little bit, laugh at yourself, just understand it doesn't always have to feel so heavy. It's the humor, right? It's not getting so reactive, it's being more observant. And then also in the stillness and more the watching than the going in, what are other people telling you around you? Because I feel when you talk to me a lot, it's like you tell me a lot of the environment or people you're bumping into or people that are speaking to you. It's almost like they're doing the talking for you, which is really grace because you don't have to get all caught up in it. It's already being spoken into existence.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, like when you go through things, there is a collective energy that's probably supporting it, and it's how are you feeding into it. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Responding from the soul is the harder journey to take. It really is. It truly is the harder journey to take. So, because it's requiring you to really fight back against the ego, and it's
Mm-hmm.
fighting, and it's almost like a test for you
Mm-hmm.
to say, how do I know, like, do I know myself?
Mm-hmm.
And do I love that part of myself where somebody else's words or actions against you or not understanding you doesn't affect who you are at your core? Truly, would you say?
Absolutely. Because listen, guys, when like the Mother Mary oil that I make here for you guys, in Mary's prayer, Hail Mary, full of grace, Mary gave Jesus, right, brought baby Jesus into the manger, right, and suffrage in the cold. And then, when Christ was taken off the cross, you see Mary holding her son. So sometimes if you want a sounding board or you want something to go off of, lean into the Divine Mother. When you want to really not get so egoic, look into the energy of the Divine Mother and say a little bit, she still held her son after all the cruelty and abuse he went through. She still held him with diplomatic compassion and sorrow, all of it, all of
Yeah,
it. She was
love
feeling
and
all of
grief.
it, but she
Yeah,
still took that son. She still took her light that she brought into this world and held it. So when it's painful, when it's not comfortable, when it's not the first thing you want to choose off the menu, which most of these lessons are not what you want off the menu of
hell
life,
no.
there is some type of nutritional value to them. So lean into the maternal divine feminine and go, why? Instead of why me, right? Why me? Why?
Why?
Why? Just simply ask why. Why is this around me? Why is this happening? Why is X, Y, and Z triggering me? So really lean into your who, what, where, whens, and most importantly, why. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that too, because I think that when you start to ask yourself, like, if you're like, oh, why is this always
Mm-hmm.
happening to me? This always happens to
Mm-hmm.
me. That's when you
Mm-hmm.
really start to um, get into that victim mindset. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, life is happening to me. And the important part, and Frank and I were really talking about this morning, the important part is to really lift your your view of the situation
Mm-hmm.
and see it through the eyes of the soul. Like, what is actually happening here?
Mm-hmm.
And I always come back to, listen, everybody is on their own journey. We have to remember that. And you have to remember that you're on your
Your
own
own
journey.
journey.
And it's not going to be freaking butterflies and
It's not always going to
rainbows
be
the whole
sunny.
time. No, it can't be. It can't be.
It
You
wouldn't
have
be normal.
no, and you have lessons to learn, and you have things to learn, and things that you need to grow through. So your
Mm-hmm.
growth comes out of these trials,
Mm-hmm.
right? And who you are and who you're going to continue to be really comes out of these trials. And I think what's important is understanding for you, what is integrity for you? What is
Mm-hmm.
your integrity? What is your own personal integrity? Are you keeping to your word, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is your moral compass? Right? What are your beliefs? Like, what are your beliefs, and are you holding to them, or do you let it slide, all the time?
Listen, guys, integrity is what you're acting like and not acting like around people and not around people. Integrity is one of those things where it's really your own internal thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice for people to see that you have integrity or you have values or you have X, Y, or Z, but it's also what you're doing when nobody is around to catch it. And then when it's
Totally.
caught, whether it's from integrity or not, that's the truth teller there. You know.
Absolutely. And how you react or
Mm-hmm.
respond to that
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, it's important to understand that your own integrity, as well as the integrity of the people around you. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that right now, especially in an age of like social media.
Yeah.
And we're gonna like, I actually want to broaden this a little bit more and like kind of talk about that because there
Hmm.
are so many accounts that I see and so many
Hmm.
things that I see that it's beautiful on the surface. Like on the surface,
Hmm.
things look great and people are coaches and people
Hmm.
are, you know,
Then get a baby wipe.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
their business, their business mentors, or they're helping you strategically in your own business,
Hmm.
and everything looks beautiful on the surface, right? Until you actually start to dive in and see, okay, well, wait a second, they have whatever 12,000 followers,
Hmm.
but zero engagement really on their posts or their reels.
Are
And
those
then,
clients their own, or are they
or
bought?
exactly. And usually with things like that, when you start to actually dig in and not just be, hypnotized by the smoke and mirrors and the
Hmm.
pretty reels and the nice colors and things like that. And you start to
Hmm.
actually look, what are you getting here?
Hmm.
Like, and that's when you can start to really kind of tell the integrity of the person. Like there are some people that have caught my eye and I'm like, oh, this is like a beautiful feed, great. And then I start to like listen and I'm like, well, they kind of keep regurgitating the same thing over and
Hmm.
over. It's things you keep hearing everywhere else. I don't see anything
Hmm.
special here. And now I'm looking like they have all these followers, but seriously, like,
The math equation isn't adding up.
no, like the likes aren't there, or like the
Hmm.
comments aren't there. And you start to say, okay, well, wait a second, is this person in integrity that
Hmm.
I'm looking to take on in my life?
Hmm.
And you really have to start to sit with yourself and kind of ask yourself that question, because if this is someone that you want to use for within your
Hmm.
own business, or you want to use as a mentor or a coach or whatever it is, taking the step back and saying, well, what is their history,
Right.
or what is actually going on here? Do they actually have a successful business?
Hmm.
Did they actually Were they actually
Hmm.
able to do for themselves what they have done, what they're
Hmm.
trying to do for me? Or are they just good at whatever it
Hmm.
is? They
And
think that they're good at it.
and that's why I say, guys, like when I joked with Tiff and she chuckled at when I said baby wipe. In life, from having a background in fashion design and art and working with designers and working underneath a fashion designer, models would walk in the door that we would do dress fittings on, and they were beautiful girls, but nothing where you were like taken away, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then we would look at their portfolios or covers that you'd see them in, and you go, oh my God, it's night or day difference. But the funny thing is, the ones that were the more plain Jane or quieter, the personalities and their way of presenting and their humility or their integrity of really showing up to the
Mm-hmm.
appointment on time, right? You'd see those different types of models get the bookings, get the better garments, be presented by the designers more prevalently. So everything can be taken away with a baby wipe.
Mm-hmm.
What are you like in your life without your makeup, without your Instagram, without your jewelry or your accessories? What are you bare? And being bare and being seen in the bareness, that is integrity. So look at also too when people aren't always showing up so, I guess I would say like high gloss.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's
Absolutely.
keep it real. You had beautiful photos of everybody done at the store. As beautiful and as high gloss as all of them looked, I know my team and I saw the spirit behind it too.
Mm-hmm.
Trust your intuition, guys. When you're working with people or you want to get involved with people, study the page, look at them, see what they're like when they're tagged in other things, look at other followers that they have. Really use your intuition to barometer what you want around you and if it lines up with your integrity or not. Do your research.
Yeah, like look back. I mean, if you're looking
Hmm.
at somebody and you have like I don't know, you're looking for a spiritual mentor, and
Mm-hmm.
or you have like a spiritual business or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and you look like, do your research. Don't just take the first, 9 things in your Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
feed. Go backwards. You may see that they renounced their spirituality at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're trying to be your spiritual mentor, or they're trying to, read your chart or
But I
whatever
feel
it
like, but
might
don't you feel
be.
like that's like a little hypocritical?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
that may be a year ago or 2 years ago that those things were said, and
Mm-hmm.
you didn't go back, and now you kind of have. It's like that. Who is that person?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Doreen Virtue.
Doreen Virtue,
Well,
yes.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, if she started selling cards again, wouldn't you be like, because she
yeah.
renounced her spirituality and took back her energy from all of her decks and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things? If she
Mm-hmm.
just came back tomorrow or today
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Hey, I'm spiritual again,"
It would
wouldn't you be
feel
like,
it would feel it would feel to me a little inauthentic, or it'd feel like, is what the A thing that you're doing not working, that you got to pull B, C, and D in? That to me,
mm,
I would find intriguing. I would be a little like, hmm. It would give me a
yeah,
energy.
yeah,
I wouldn't react because to me, maybe it's my moon and Aquarius placement. I'm not going to get bothered. I have bills to pay. I'm a little
yeah,
unbothered by the noise,
right,
but I can still hear the noise. So maybe in your life, look at the track record and also say to yourself, maybe I need to lean into being a little more unbothered, not so affected by it too.
yeah,
For you, I know you see this a lot in your own work, and sometimes what you just have to do, and I've seen you do, you just go, oh, okay.
yeah,
And then you go into another thing, which I commend you for that, because it's easy to want to, when somebody's stirring the pot, it's easy for you to be like, oh, let me stir it for you. You look like your arm's getting tired, right?
mm-hmm.
I've actually seen you not take the pot and the stir. And I admire that, because that is a lot of character.
Thank
That's a
you.
lot of character.
Thanks. But I'm going to say that's
Hmm.
not easy,
No,
right?
I'm
Like,
sure
that's
it's
not an
hard.
easy choice to
Hmm.
make when you have that opposition against
Hmm.
you, or you have
Hmm.
something that someone's saying or doing or completely out of the integrity of their word, and then you see it unfolding before
Hmm.
you, where it's all, oh, I'm all grace, or I'm all this, I'm all
Hmm.
business grit, and like all things like that.
Hmm.
And then you then know that behind the scenes that they are
Hmm.
acting against you, or that they are not in integrity
Hmm.
with their word, whatever it might be,
Hmm.
right? So it's a kind of a hard place to sometimes be in, but I have
Hmm.
to remember, and this is what I always come back to, is that that is their journey,
Hmm.
and this is my journey.
And as two guys, bless people on their journey. But remember when they're no longer part of your address.
Oh,
And I've
oh,
done that. I'm sorry.
oh,
I'm sorry.
I'll write it
You
down.
just have to go back to the post office and be like, I don't know where this mail goes, but can you return this
But
to
return to
sender?
sender.
Like, it's just, sometimes you have to just remember your address, guys, and sometimes say, if this, or this is not what I signed up for anymore, cancel the subscription. Just
Absolutely.
with love.
With
Just
love.
look, we're good, we're good, we're good. Junk mail, that's got to go there, that goes here. Keep it moving. Keep
Absolutely.
it moving.
Absolutely. You have to remember, what is this part of my journey? Is this
Mm-hmm.
distracting me? And this is kind of comes down
Right.
to focused energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this a distraction right now? So like,
Mm-hmm.
you just had a great up level, right? You
Mm-hmm.
just got the job of your dreams. You just opened up
Mm-hmm.
a new space. You just started a
Yeah.
job, like a new business for yourself, or
Right.
you lost a ton, or I should say, you dropped a ton
Dropped
of
a ton of
weight
weight
on your fitness
with
journey, and
ease.
you with ease, and
Dropped
you
it.
and you feel great.
Right.
And now, you've got people like trying to like work
Yeah,
against you
being a
and
little cute.
whatever. Yeah,
Being a little
being
cute.
a little cute and trying to say things or do things against you. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
remember, is this taking away from my focused
Mm-hmm.
energy of those things? Like, where is
Mm-hmm.
my energy and
Mm-hmm.
my mind best focused?
Mm-hmm.
Is it focused on the egoic, I'm going to say something back, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do something back, I'm going to be mad or upset about this?
Mm-hmm.
Is it focused there, or is it focused on continuing to rise? Because obviously, that other
Mm-hmm.
person's stuff is focused on you,
Mm-hmm.
and that means that they're not growing. So that's not your problem, that's
Mm-hmm.
theirs, right? For you, you have a choice, and your choice has to always come back to, and I know that it's hard, but it's got to come back to, is this serving me? Is
Right.
this actually serving my growth, or is this feeding my ego?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then let the person
And the
talk.
ego, I remember, guys, the ego is always hungry. So when you think you're giving that ego a little bit, it's gonna want more. It's never not hungry.
Absolutely.
But sometimes you have to starve out the ego. And giving the ego a little diet and then re-nutrient, I guess I'd say nutrients, right?
Yeah,
Giving back nutrients, right, to your soul. Are you meditating on it? Are you praying on it? Are you having a laugh at it? Are you doing your shadow work around something? Because the soul, I feel, for a lot of people, and from what I see and from what I hear, and I'm going to keep it real with you guys, the soul is so malnourished. And it feels like you can look at the person, you can see that it's unhealthy.
mm-hmm.
Go back into the soul and give it the nurturance and the nutrients and the love that it needs. Because if you're not giving it there, you're going to pull it from other places and you're still not getting fed, you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I always come back to, you know what, there's actually a beautiful, and I don't know the quote offhand, but I'll give you the idea, in
Mm-hmm.
Mary Magdalene Revealed,
Mm-hmm.
where it says that that the ego looks to say, like, look over here, look over there, and try to
Mm-hmm.
distract from the way of the soul, because it can't see the soul. And I always come back to
Mm-hmm.
that: the ego can't see the soul can see the ego. So the ego thinks it's in the driver's seat, and it's
Mm-hmm.
always going to contend to be in the driver's seat because it can't see the way of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know the way of the soul, because you're connected to it, because you're dropping
Mm-hmm.
into it, because you're opening up yourself to being led by it,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to have to remember that the ego is going to give you those distractions. And you have to say, I'm not going to get distracted by this,
Mm-hmm.
because it's, quite frankly, not worth my time.
Mm-hmm.
And what is worth my time is my growth, my expansion, what I have, what my soul journey is about. That's what I came here to do. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
keep coming back to that. And I know it can be difficult, I know that, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you can stay close to it, and the more easier it becomes
Mm-hmm.
for you.
A lot of times we talk about steps or what to do with the ego. One thing I learned from my grandma, she goes, Frank, before you say anything, put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. These are very simple, almost they seem silly things, but they're really not.
Mm-hmm.
Ego is like, look at me. But look at me. But did you not look at me? Look at me. But
Look over here, over
wait,
here, over here.
but I'm here. And the soul's like, well, we got it.
Yeah,
We got
we
it.
see you.
We got it, babe. You're right there. Okay. Put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and just literally mentally say the word pause.
Mm.
Pause yourself. Take a moment and pause, observe, take it in, and just ask yourself, what is this showing me? How is this a teacher to me? And remember to also, too, guys, and I keep on saying it, you have to laugh at it because the soul can sometimes get heavy by these things.
Mm-hmm.
So, laughter or finding the humor in things keeps the lesson a little more like a piece of clay. It's a little more malleable.
Mm.
The clay is warmed up in your hands. It's easier to work through. So remember, take it in step with a little more humor, with a little bit more observation. And you don't always have to get so loud. That's the thing too. When it seems loud, when it seems like it's, I'm over here, observe that it's over there, but it doesn't mean you have to go into that over there. I'm keeping my address. I like my address.
I love
moved.
mine.
I moved around a lot in my
It's good
life.
to
I like
have
where I am
this
now.
beautiful address.
I don't want to go over to that address. I like where I am.
Yeah.
So remember your address too.
Yeah.
Just remember it.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that so much.
Know your address.
Know your address.
Know where your soul knows its address. That's it.
Yeah. And that focused energy is, it's a lot of times too, we get caught up in the moment by it. And then when we make the decision to say, I'm not going to react to this, that's for damn sure. And maybe I have to see if I'm going to respond. But for now, I'm just going to keep going.
We're going to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's
like,
cute.
Okay.
But it's kind of cute.
It's cute.
It's not beautiful.
No.
It's cute.
No. It's cute that
It's
you're trying to do this to me or
cute.
at me or whatever it is. But unfortunately, that's not going to work with me because you're not even on my radar, right? Because my growth is what's on my radar. And you're just trying to be a speed bump in that. And that's not going to happen, right? And that's where responding gets you. Now let's take that same road. Let's react. Okay. So now.
Let's text while driving.
Yeah. So now you react. Now you say something. Now it becomes a thing. Let's say you say something and now it becomes an HR thing. Now you're sitting in HR. So now
wipes are out.
Damn. So now what do you have to do? Now what are you doing? You're taking away from your new job, right? Going back to that example, you're taking away from that promotion, the new things that you could be doing, what you could be showing, how you can be enjoying this. And you're taking away from that to fight somebody on something that they said. And it was coming from a place of them. They're looking at you and seeing something that they're not. And it's really, truly more about them than it ever is about you. And that's what you have to remember. Whenever anybody acts against you, says something against you, it is truly always because you are holding up a mirror to them just by existing.
Listen, mirror, mirror on the wall. Truth always tells it all.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry. We're doing the spirit rhyme game.
Yes,
here.
we are.
So,
no, but if you're holding up a mirror to somebody, they may not like what they see.
They may not like the reflection.
Absolutely. And they're going to react to that. So you just have to be the one that responds and keeps going and just keep shining your light bright. That is the most that you can do is shine your light so bright that nothing can ever get in the way of it. So this dealing with opposition, it really truly always comes down to you. It's never about the other person, right? And you always have to ask yourself, like I always say, how am I the problem? So how are you the problem? Well, you're the problem because your mind is so focused on it. Because you're focused on opposition when you really should be focused on you and your growth. You're focused on somebody else. So keep it moving, keep it following the soul. And what you'll find at the other end is people just fall off. They just fall off or they don't. Maybe they don't fall off, but maybe they grow. Maybe you inspire them to grow. Maybe that's part of your soul contract with the person is to get them to grow, to be the catalyst. And you just keep going and shining your light and not getting affected shows them that, oh, well, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah, correctly.
In a good way. In a good way. We can hope that we can be the light and not, and that somebody else can follow in your footsteps in a really great way. But listen, it happens. It's going to have, I find that for me personally, daily. I find that for me, whenever I have something absolutely incredible happen or absolutely like big, like expansion energy or whatever it might be, that the universe always gives me something that I have to work through. And I truly believe it's part of the shedding process and the releasing process, but also as a little test to say, what are you focused on? What are you focused on right now? Are you focused on, even though you may be right, what are you focused on? Are you focused on ego, or are you focused on your soul's journey? Are you going to get distracted,
Mhm.
or are you going to stay the path? And it is a fight sometimes. I'm not going to sit here and be like, and I always choose the soul's path. I do in the end. I do in the end, but it
She
takes
has
me
fun
some
in the beginning and the
time.
middle.
Yeah, it takes me some
It's the
time to get
beginning and the
there.
middle.
Yeah, I kind of flip flop back and forth for a minute, but I don't take action. I don't take action. I sit, I talk it out. I talk it out with myself in my journal. I talk it out with Frank or anybody, honestly, any of the
Mhm.
amazing people that I have here on my team at Spirit and Soul, and I can talk it through with my husband. And then really, truly make decisions from a place of calm, which I will
Mhm.
say I was not that person for most of my life.
Yeah.
For most of my life, I
Mhm.
reacted from my ego because I'm like a Gemini and I'm gonna have to be like, say what?
You're like, what?
Because I have to communicate immediately. Say what's on my heart. But I've learned to go with the other twin. That's a little
The more
more,
Buddhistic.
yeah, the one that's like a little more calm and thinks things through.
But you found the balance within you.
Yeah.
That's what's important. It's the balance within you.
How would you say you do with these in your own situations?
Well, as an Aries, I'm like, well, do we slay that dragon? What are we doing with that dragon? Can we use that dragon? Make a nice little bag out of it. I feel for me, having a strength and a determination to me, and people knowing Frank is that one to go to when everything's, a little up in smoke. It's tricky for me because there is a need for me to want to clean up, fix, and do. I know that about me.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you have to say, that's not my mess. That's not my place. Or I have my own things that I have to work on. Right. So for me, knowing how to almost drop my speed a little bit, but still keep myself en route and still keep myself on the road is how I do it. And sometimes knowing how to maneuver with certain things on the road, that's pretty much how I look at it. How am I
Mm,
maneuvering through this?
I love that. Yeah.
You
How are
know?
you maneuvering through? How are you going through it that it feels good for you,
Mm-hmm.
but also is, I think, serving a higher purpose
Yeah.
as well. Like, are you staying the course, or are you feeding too much into ego?
Yeah.
And it's okay to feed into ego sometimes. Like,
It's
I don't
part
want
of
to
being
say that
it's
it's
part of
not.
being human, guys. Listen, all day long, as direct and to the point and honest and nurturing and mothering as all of you may feel from me, I am. I can cut people down, slice them to ribbons. Um, I'm really not one to be played with. I always checkmate everything on my path,
Mm-hmm.
good, bad, or indifferent. I know what I have to do on my chessboard, but I know sometimes this little battle here is not what I'm focused on. This is the war over here I'm focused on, or this is something I can walk over. This is a pothole on my path. I want to make sure that the whole ice that I'm walking on, I'm trying to walk where there's no ice. That's how I try to go about it.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
know what I can handle. When you've been through trauma, when you're a survivor, when you've had family deaths, when you've raised your younger sibling and raised your parent, you know how to deal. What you want to do is get out of the egoic survivor energy
Mm-hmm.
and go more into the peaceful thriver. That's how I look at it.
I love
Try
that.
to try to lean into thriving versus the surviving, because then the surviving is stimulated off of the ego, and then the ego is the bitey and the snappy and the cloy and the scratchy. Thriving is just staying rooted
Mm.
wherever you are and knowing that you're okay in anything really in front of you.
Mm.
That's how I look at
I
it.
love I really love that because it's like saying like the survivor is always on the
Hmm.
defense.
Yeah, it's always like this. It's
Yeah,
like
it's always like waiting
like
for
a
the next punch,
punching,
and like
right?
the thriver is rooted, and I
Yeah.
think that's really so great to say that the thriver is the one that's rooted in the
Hmm.
growth. It's not, always on the defense. Now,
Hmm.
sometimes you got to be on the defense, and
That's
that's
right.
okay, and
That's right.
that's all right. And how you respond to it, if you have like a legal thing or something like that
Hmm.
that you have to enforce, you may have to enforce it. But are you
Hmm.
enforcing it from a place of ego, or are you like from a
Hmm.
like a
Like a
I'm
check and
gonna get
balance.
them, or is it because legally that's what you need to do, or whatever it might be,
Hmm.
or legally that's what's right. These I'm trying to give like all
Of
different
course.
examples so that you can relate it
Of
to all
course.
different things in your life. But these are things that from a you want to look at everything from a thriver mentality, so that you're not always looking at everything on the defense all the time.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's how I handle it. And knowing your duality,
Mm.
you can have beautiful, loving, exceptional points of yourself, and you have parts of you that you could go, "Yeesh,"
Mm-hmm.
but don't beat yourself up over it. Remember also too that a lot of times people, and this is what I've learned in my own life dealings, people will forget a lot of the good that you did with them or for them, and they'll remember the full points of you. Then they'll Photoshop them, or they'll almost make them a caricature of you. Some people in your life, you're going to be their hero. Some people, you're going to be their villain. And you know what? In all honesty, to be a real vibrant, thriving, exceptional human being that's actually interesting and not just smoke and mirrors and, in my opinion, homogenized and boring, be a hero and a villain. But know at the end of the day what you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're interesting and you have layers and you have depth, you're gonna be seen in different lights
You're gonna
completely.
Yeah, you're gonna play all the different roles.
Absolutely.
You're gonna play all the different
Absolutely.
roles, whether you want to or not.
Hmm.
Whether you want to or not, because it's
Hmm.
sometimes the role that you're playing, and you have to be the main character in your own life, and whatever role you're playing in your own life is your
Hmm.
own role. But when it comes to other people giving you a role in their
Hmm.
life, that role isn't up to
No.
you. It's up to what they give you in their life, and how you play it. And like Frank said, sometimes you may be the villain in
Hmm.
somebody else's story.
Villain.
What
It's just like
are you actually the
you gotta
villain?
laugh at it though.
You do. And sometimes like that's
Like
like the
sometimes I
best
joke
part of
with my friends. I go, the things I hear, I wish I was this version of me. I'm like this version's like
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Like
like
it's like amazing. I'm like, does it breathe fire?
that's
Do I
it.
breathe? Do I breathe fire? I wish I could do that. That'd be exceptional.
Yeah,
You
like
got laugh at it.
you have to, and then you have to say, am I actually the villain? No. Maybe in their story, but not in mine.
You
And
gotta
in
just pray for
mine,
them.
yeah, and again, it always comes back to, and this is always the thing that sets me free a lot of the
Hmm.
times, is they're on their journey and you're
Right.
on yours, and you need to separate yourself sometimes from the 3D egoic
Hmm.
perspective and say, okay, they're on their journey and they're struggling because they don't feel like they're enough, that anything that they do is enough, that they feel abandoned, or they feel blah blah blah, or whatever it might be. And you can understand them from a different perspective, and it doesn't mean that what they're saying or doing is right at all, at all. It just means that you can digest it a little bit better, where it doesn't have to become a distraction or a samskara, which is like,
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
energetic like hold on you. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
become that. So we want to empower you today with the word choice. We want to empower you with the fact that just because somebody
Hmm.
is opposing you does not mean that you have to take on the fight.
Hmm.
You can just move with grace.
It's all-
Yeah.
it's beautifully said.
All right.
Not
Thanks.
bad.
Oh, thank
Not
you.
bad.
Thanks.
Not bad.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. And let me tell you something. We've got your back. So if you are going through some type of
Mhm.
opposition or something like that, tell us your story. Allow us to help you to work through it. We would love to hear from you. So you can reach out to us on Instagram. You can DM us at Spirit and Soul Studio, or you can reach out to Frank at
the spiritual siren.
The Spiritual Siren on Instagram. And we would love to support you in that because we want you to know that you're not alone in it and that you can rise above it. Okay?
You got this, guys.
You got this. All right. See you on the next episode.
Bye, guys.